say hello to our new van. Look how yellow it is. I'm going to call it Bumble. And it's got a really cool little back bit. So when you open it, so we're going to have like a bench here, and a little like thing in the corner at the end there. And then when we pull our bench drawer out, we can then cook underneath this, and then we're going to get a little shower rail all the way around the outside. So it's like this. The guy is going to put a window in here for us, a window that opens slightly on that side, and a window that doesn't open on that side, because that's obviously where you've got the door, so you don't want an open window where someone can just open it. He's replaced the clutch, so we have a brand new clutch in there. This is this one, so we'll have a window here, window there, but that one opens, and a window at the back. And we're going to remove this so it'll give us like extra space, but he said he might be able to do that for us as well. And then 3 seats, and look, they're heated seats. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's the van. I'm really excited about it.
All of the tie downs are out, which attach that like plastic liner in, so that now will just come out. Take the bulkhead out beforehand so that it doesn't scratch the floor. And then we need to get rust proofing, sealing, cleaning, and then we'll be good to go. So these are actually clipped on, so it might be worth taking this plastic one off first. I don't know, it's only clipped on here. Oh, happy days. I'll try this out. So that is 245 from back to front. So if the bed is 200, I mean that comes all the way to here. So I think we need to make the bed about 190. And because that only gives us a 5 centimeter, if that gap. So lighting wise, get rid of these interior lights here, but keep these ones at the back, but have a switch back here that we could turn them off, so that if we go for a pee at night, and when you open, switch, so that if we go for a pee at night and open the door and they're on the timer, that we can manually turn these off, but that they still come on if at night we want to open the doors or whatever, so we have some light when it automatically comes on. I need you to decide, Shana, whether you want one here, one here, one here, one here, or if you want them going down the middle. So I think switches in here would be useful. So in this plastic maybe, so that we can turn on the spotlights. We can turn it off as we leave. Maybe dimmer switches, so that we can turn the lights down a bit in the evening. USBs. I think we want, so the unit's going to be here, so we want a couple of USBs coming out here so we can charge a phone and just pop it on the side. In the cutouts that we're going to do in here, a couple of USBs both sides so we can charge our phones and just put our phones on those little cutouts. And then we're chatting, because the drawer's going to come out the back here, it might be useful to have some more USBs at the very back if for whatever reason we need more lighting. If we've got a tent over the back, you could plug in a light that you could then hang in the kitchen. Another light that you kind of hang on the door, hang it down. I was going to bring some power around to here so that we can sort potentially some sort of shower system out in the future. But I want to get like a custom made water thing that goes in this area and up onto the arch. I don't know how many litres that would be, maybe like 15. But I think that's all the power and lighting that we would need. So the wire-wise, we actually have 2 batteries already in the van. So that's a win. They are two 80 amps AGM batteries.
Looking out. Followed by another clip here.
Control unit here behind the fridge. Solar, we've already got a hole here and here, so I think we could run the solar through the hole up here and down to this kind of control area here where we have the fuses and everything. So the cabling to the back on this side just goes through the wall, basically. It's all hollow. And then for this bit it will go up on the inside of here, up to here. And then it can go across here, because we're going to put I think we put a plywood fascia board on here. I didn't realise it was going to be like cut like that on there. And we can run all the cabling back there, and then all the cabling up here, and then into a grommet here that then comes down to the back. We're going to try and come up with a method to try and pull all this wiring up as high as possible, so that when the roof is in, it covers it and you don't see any of that wiring. So because it's going to be plied to here, it leaves you a good couple of inches here. You can get blinds, like IKEA blinds, that go up into that section that you can then just pull down to cover the windows. So we need to cover those two with the same kind of down blind system. So we could look into maybe doing blinds, or we can try and get some panels that go in there, but then we'd have to fold those up. So maybe a blind would be a bit easier with our stick-on. But yeah, all of the wiring is hopefully going to be roof across here, one panel that comes up to here that we cut down here, and then another panel up here as high as we can get it, so that they kind of hit above 6 mil, and then 3.6 mil at the top. Love you, Shanna. So we had lots of little spots of rust along the floor and up on the sides and things. So we have sanded those back with a wire brush, cure rusted them, and we just covered them in a paint that we had called floor. There were holes in the roof that were previously sealed, so we've got two here and two here. They were both rusty, so we have cure rusted those and silver flexed those and put grommets. Thank you. We also had 4 holes in the floor over there, which we've also silver flexed and grommeted. And then next job is, while this is drying, there are some panels which are pulled away a little bit. So this one here is pulled away from the outside, so it's not connected anymore. So we need to shove a load of silver flex in there. The worst area by far is up here on the tailgate. Most of these tailgate pieces have pulled away. So we need to silk flex all of those. It doesn't make any noise.
And then did the other half go on that side?
Yep. Wood glue and biscuit joinery. Are you going to be able to reach down and lift that up?
With my foot? No. I could do a split.
Do it on the left side, left foot. Yeah. Maybe not in the way of the biscuit, and across a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, do you want me to do that bit then?
Or you'll have to stand on there.
Why are we doing biscuits?
Lift up a bit more on your side. So we are just siliconing all the way around the plywood to reduce any risk of squeaking and to insulate it from the edge of the metalwork. Silverflex clear seat, and then Charlotte is making a nice bead after I've gone around to fill the voids. We used 1-inch screws, self-tappers, and we used, I think, 1 in each corner of each sheet of plywood, plus an extra one by the door in the centre and along the front as well. We've used a couple of extras. Well, the custom cut boards that we bought didn't go all the way to the very edge, so we've cut a bit of 12mm ply, we've biscuit jointed it into the other piece, glued it, and we're going to screw it in now with a cutout for the transit door. Straight down. Yep. And here.
How many are we putting in?
Just 4. Yep. Ah! And then that one. There. Yeah, going between a little bit further. Yeah, like that. Okay. Nice. Perfect. For knocking. So we're just putting the wires, like pre-wiring before we stuff insulation down all of the cavities. So we've got a 16.5 amp coming to this area here, where we're going to have a cutout into the wall and a couple of USBs on this side and the same on the other side. So we've just run that up through here and out of the standard. So that goes through there, and there's a little bit of mastic that you just have to pull out of the way, and then you can get that cable up there. And then we've got a 25 amp, which is following the same as the normal Ford cabling to the rear lights, and it actually has enough space to clip into the standard Ford clips back here, and this is going back here for a and that's going to have a cigarette lighter at the back here for takeoff, and the same on the other side, but we're going to have a shower taken off on that side, so we need to replicate what we're doing here on that side as well. We've run the wires, and now we've run the wires, we're going to shove this recycled bottle fleece up into the cavity. So we've got like a stick, and we're shoving it all the way up there. We're going to all the way across there and down here as well, just to insulate as much as possible.
This is a shelf. It's going to be glued together, and because the van sides have a shape to them, he has to cut down the length of the whole of this and then move one to the other side to form a rhombus. That distance is 9.5 inches. There's a earth lead here, negative, that feeds the earth here, straight in the battery, and that will come out, and that will connect into the earth block here, providing an earth to the vehicle. There's an existing hole in this seat base, so I've just added a grommet. In order to get the wires across the top, had to cut out a part of that trim there to to allow the wires to pass through. And then when we come down here, there's also similarly part of the trim cut away to allow the wires to feed down on this side. These are the two solar panel wires to feed through that slot and down and out through the bottom here. The other wires are all feeding down through here, and they go through again a piece that's been cut out at the back to allow the wires to go through. You just have to be tough with this to pull it off. You can prise off this bottom piece of the pillar, and then you can get the wires through. I'm bringing them out here and then feeding into the fuse box. Just passed it behind that clip, and then they'll push out through there. May need to make that a bit wider, I think. Silicone adhesive. What was it? Silkaflex. Silkaflex, clear Silkaflex adhesive has been applied in a U shape all the way round, and then in lines, allowing gaps at the back for air to expand out. And the same on this rear portion as the 100 watt panel extends across that air gap there.
Bang away.
This bit down here from the floor is maximum is 14 centimeters. Starts panel here at 66 centimeters along there. That goes along the whole length there. These are spaced from the edge here. The center is 30.5 centimeters. That side to the center on the second one is 76 centimeters. And from that edge to the inside bit there, centered on there, is panel go over here from the top of the
Wheel arch.
wheel arch, thank you, top of the wheel arch to the center here of that bar, 45 centimeters. And that's going to be level, so 45 centimeters. Nice big patch there that comes out to a maximum of 16 centimeters, and that's 15 centimeters out there. This part here is from the floor to there is 1.3 meters. 1.3 meters to the underside. These roof trusses from this edge here, the center is 28 centimeters, and each one of those has a bearing area of 5 centimeters. Again, from this top edge to the center on here is 1 meter, is 163.5 centimeters to the center of that strut.
Ta-da! Again. That's not even.
That's not even.
Look at that.
The electrics are on this board, putting in a riv nut through here and on that side, and they will go in here and here. In that panel there, up to 14 centimeters up here, is a steel backplate which forms part of the ribbing, and so the riv nut will go into that steel backplate, and then these electrics will be riv nutted to the steel plate and also bolted into the floor, including the steel plate beneath. With the riv nut in place, now in a position to put the bolt.
Cutting the hole for the recessed light switch for the LEDs in this cutout. Go on, do it on. Wow, that looks pretty good as a reading light
It
at
does
night.
look good. That's pretty good.
Not bad, eh?
You pleased with it?
I am.
So theoretically now you should be able to pull all of this, all the wiring, through this USB into this location if you have any problems, without taking the panel off. And then you should be able to remove this by undoing those two connectors. Fitted the new replacement unit, that all works, showing 11.7 volts. I don't know whether that's your starter battery or your auxiliary battery, and then you can switch it off by just pressing that button. The battery box is not only screwed to the wooden frame with all the other electronics, it's bolted straight through to the floor of the van, this Ford Transit Custom van. This area is recessed, so the head of the bolt is low enough, but not only that, in some insulation which will also protect the base of the battery, and then we're going to insulate around the battery. The battery is now being insulated and secured. Flap is just there, it's a rubber flap. It's just to make sure those terminals are covered and protected when the connections are on. All the wires coming in from the fuse box, from the customer connection point, and the cut-off switch, which is just down there as well, have all been wrapped in cloth tape. Just to go through quickly the setup that's here. this board is exactly the same size as the fridge. There's a fan that blows out. There's a fan on the fridge that similarly blows out. The unit that will go over it all has plenty of facility for air to come out. Also here, down the side of the seat, I'm going to cut a hole, maybe just here, so you can put your hand in and switch off the solar panel. There's your hole. Chamfered the edges, both sides with the router, so that should be big enough to get your hand in and turn off the solar panel control without pulling the fridge out. It might get warm behind here simply because you've got a fridge and you've also got this DC to DC charger. Wires coming in here. These two that are there come from the solar panels that are on the roof, two 100-watt solar panels connected in series. These wires lead to an isolation switch, and then there are two wires from the isolation switch which come out and lead through to the PV input on the MPPT Victron 7515. That takes 75 volts and potentially produces 15 amps. These wires are all 50 amp wires. From the customer connection point on the side here, in this Ford Transit Custom van 2015, that connection point goes to a 40 amp fuse. There's a fuse in the base of the seat here which is 60 amps, so that's 40 amps, so that should go first. So that takes out the problem with changing the fuse under the seat. That leads to the DC to DC charger in the plus. The negative from the DC to DC charger goes to this block here. This is the main fuse block and connection block. Coming out from this DC to DC charger is the plus, which goes to this side of the connection block, and a 40 amp fuse which will feed here and feed via this wire here the battery. From the MPPT, we've got a plus feed that goes directly to this fuse, and that feeds into the battery. That's the connection to the battery. There's also a minus feed, a negative feed, which goes to this block here. These two blocks are obviously separate. That's the negative and that's the positive block. The battery gets a feed from this negative block here. This fan is controlled by a sensor. The sensor is actually located here and is controlled by this unit, so that the fan comes on if the temperature rises and it's too warm, and that can be because, of course, that's the DC to DC charger, which is mounted on a metal plate to help dissipate the heat, but also, of course, because you've got a refrigerator that's going to be sitting just here. The components in the van, including the fridge, receives its power from a smaller fuse box down there, and there's also that cut-off switch which disconnects everything this side that's being put in the van, but not obviously the DC charger and the MPPT. The MPPT will only be disconnected if you switch off that block there, and the DC to DC automatically disconnects itself if the engine stops running. The cut-off switch gets its feed from this wire here, which leads to the cut-off switch, and then the cut-off switch feeds that fuse box, small fuse box down there, which feeds the rest of the wires. Some of those wires go up inside this unit here, and they feed those wooden shelves, that side and that side. There are two feeds, one for the right hand side, one for the left hand side. There's also a feed that leads down the back following the normal wiring of the van. That leads to a cigarette lighter that's there, and leads also down to the bottom there. There are two wires that come out. One of those wires is to operate a pump for a shower that's going in the back, and the other wire that's coming out the bottom is to operate some LED lighting that will be under the seats to give some mood lighting. And the same on that side. That wire there that's coming out the bottom will go under the seats to an LED to give some mood lighting. One screw there, and then put the cover back. One screw there. Won't bother with the bottom ones. Don't think there's any need for those. Fridge is connected and it's on. Switch it off. And then the wiring's done down there, so you can see how it goes up the plastic bit and then straight across. So the orange light that was on there just indicates that the compressor isn't on. For reference, so from the floor to that point there is 6 3/4 at that point. That's a solid bit, and all the way in. So that's for a 2-inch slot. This panel here starts, the solid bit really starts at 21 inches and then moves up to 30 inches. That's this flat panel there, which obviously extends all along. Over the wheel arch there is a bar there that sticks out, and that runs at, say, 2 3/8 from the top of that insulation. Still 2 3/8 to 2 3/4. Here it's running at 2 3/8 again. From floor level, straight up from there, 32 inches is the centre of this bar, and it retains its position at 32 inches. Total thickness here, so you've only got 2 1/4 to play with that's flat. Could do with avoiding these holes. No, oh, they're just indentations, so they're not actually holes. I think this side is, by the look of it, an exact replica on the other side. Just for info, the wiring is stripped for a short length and then twisted together and then goes into one of those holes, and then we'll move on to the next one. So for this switch here, unfortunately it can't be anywhere here because there's the mechanism for the seat belt in there, so it's had to go there because they've got bars across here, and the connectors for these two are in this bit here. Soldered the wires, but if you take that out there is enough room to get the wires out. Obviously it goes up there and then into and behind this. That took a lot of effort to get that going, backwards and forwards, and eventually it started to go. And down it come. Oh, down it's coming. Your winder that's part of the kit wouldn't have done it because it was just bending. Anyway, I'm going to free it all up so that should you have a problem, you can do something about it.
Ran a bit of glue around the inside of the insert. Press this up against it to get a line on the inside of this. We then cut a hole out with an inch inside so that we are definitely sure we can do it. Now I'm going to run a thicker bead of glue around, screw this into position, and then maybe put some screws in around the actual insert to make sure it's sitting nicely. And we can now see that with it pressed up, it is fully flush and will fit really nice. Why is it gone in at an angle? Oh man.
Okay.
So just screwing around the frame, even if it's just temporary, and then we take these out and then fill it again, because we've glued the inside of here and we want it to be as flush and as tight as possible, but trying to clamp it is relatively impossible. So even if there's any squeeze out, that's fine, I can sand it back or can fill it in as well. To get that nice and tight. Getting around the corners was quite difficult, but it pretty good. The width from max width is 172. perfect. Thirteen two, so 13 will be fine. 13 will bring it in ever so slightly. 13. It's a bit tight. And it comes out with it. They are both in. And that can have that up there. I don't know whether to put a hole here in the middle of each of them or a hole in the middle of both of them. So a semicircle on each.
Holes in the units, sanded both sides. I cut it both from the top end and then this way so that you didn't get any breakthrough. Same as this one. And this one. This one here, I actually swapped to a smaller one, which would probably have done for the top ones as well, because the leg is just in there and I didn't want it showing. And then, because when this comes down, that raises up, it's got to have a packing piece in there on this one. And given that you've got this gap for the top one, although I won't do it now, you can consider putting a bolt in there all the way through, just to hold it. Finish putting the new nuts in there, and then I'm just going to put that across, which is the same thickness as your tongue and groove panels that go across, just to get the level there below which we need to put a wire across for the curtains, which Mum's done. And we are yesterday heavily involved in doing the covers, because that's quite involved for the seats, so we should finish those today. And then the lovely thing is there's a little toilet that can go just slots in there. Very nice. I suppose it could even go upright, though I don't know. Maybe I see what you were thinking. You were thinking, could it just sit up? And no, I don't think with that big leg in, you can have it just sitting upright there, you know, sort of side on. This is comes too far over. You'd have to take, which you could do, it has to take a chunk out of this side, I think, because this leg is too thick in order to support everything.
That's not going to work.
Why not just cut it so that you've got the lines to fit? Looks okay. About 5. And that little light there just means the compressor's not on, and actually all that means is that it's reached temperature, so it's stopped.
Well, Sam and Shana are not really seeing those weekends there where they'll celebrate, the date of the being so got to do it the way you're supposed to do it.